Ramaveda Bhaktavinda ki Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga.
We'll just quickly say the pranam mantras. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatare Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gauravanta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So this is the third class on Prabhupada, looking through Prabhupada memories. So who all were there in the last class? Can you raise your hand? Okay. So in the last class, what was that quality we focused on of Prabhupada? Does anybody remember?
Compassion?
That was the first class.
Oh, first. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the
Humility.
one. Huh?
His humility.
His humility and his greatness. I think like my Sunday school class, I should make everyone take notes here as well.
Huh.
Then people will remember. Yeah, so the last class we had was on Prabhupada's humility and his greatness. And, you know, I chose that one because I wanted to show that dichotomy. Because usually when we see somebody is great, usually they are proud as well. You know, if we pick any famous chess player, or a famous celebrity, or a famous sportsman, or a famous scientist, they always have this baggage of ego with them. But in the last class we saw, like, you know, Prabhupada, we saw through various memories that how great he was. You know, he actually had mystic powers because he was a pure devotee of Krishna. But even though he possessed such great authority, I mean, he opened 108 temples, so that's no joke. He was the leader, leading the ISKCON movement, which had 108 temples. But yet we see in his day-to-day activity, he was so humble. So that's why I picked the dichotomy, because it's usually very difficult to see in a material person who is great and who is humble. So today we will be covering a different aspect of Prabhupada. So today's Prabhupada memories will be focused on his books. So one of the greatest contributions of Prabhupada was his books. And Prabhupada once made a very famous statement that these books are going to be the law books for the next 10,000 years, which is the golden age of Kali. And this is actually a fact, and we'll see how it's a fact. We'll see through the videos. So these books are very foundational. They're very prolific, and they're philosophically very deep. And Prabhupada knew this. When he was writing these books, he knew the value of these books. That these books would create a revolution, a social revolution. And it's happening. Like, it happened and it's happening, and it's only going to grow. So because he knew the importance of these books, that these books will stay through the test of time, you know, the 10,000 years. So he put a lot of effort into writing these books. So through today's memories, what we will see is, first of all, we'll see how great these books are, the special qualities of these books that he has written. But along with that, we'll also see how much effort the massive amount of effort he put in writing these books. And he did it for the benefit of us, for the benefit of mankind. So we'll try to capture that through these memories. Of course, this 1 hour class does not serve justice, because there is, when I was looking through this, there's just volumes and volumes of material. But what I tried to do was pick out what I felt was most relevant, and we'll try to see how valuable are these books. So again, we'll look through the lens of Prabhupada's disciples, like we do every other time. Yeah, we can maybe dim the lights a little bit. Yeah. Good. So, like my every other previous class, what we'll try to do is we'll try to see through the lens of Prabhupada disciples who were there during that really revolutionary period of 1965 to 1977, and then they took over the mantle and carried the movement forward. So the first video that we'll see is from Narad Muni Prabhu, and he is just saying how other people in the world, like those who are not ISKCON, outside ISKCON, were deeply appreciating Prabhupada's books. And as you will see, listen to this video, there are many special things that will jump out. So let's hear what Narad Muni Prabhu has to say. Can we get a volume? Yeah, maybe volume a little bit more. From here? I can try playing and see if everyone can hear properly. And then if not, then we can try.
You can also take the cordless mic.
Let's try it first.
Yeah, let's try this.
I remember in Vrindavan,
Is it
one
good?
time we were having darshan with Srila Prabhupada, and the house he was staying, and some letters had just come in from different parts of the world, glorifying Srila Prabhupada for his books and coming in from different educators and scholars. And there was this one letter in particular that Srila Prabhupada really liked, and he had somebody read it. And this letter, I don't remember who it was from, but it was from a big, big man, big, big scholar. I think maybe it was somebody, one of the big monks down in South India. I'm not sure, I think maybe it was the monk. And one of the acharya of that monk. And he was reading it, and this acharya was saying how these books that Srila Prabhupada has written, how they could not possibly be written. They're so profound. Srila Prabhupada is so prolific. How someone could do this, being an ordinary soul, is not possible. This person said, "It is my belief that Srila Prabhupada is Vyasadeva himself." And Srila Prabhupada just lit up with a big smile. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
We really don't know.
Yeah.
We really don't know who Srila Prabhupada is and what he accomplished. No one even came near accomplishing previously. And it's unlikely that for a long time anyone will. Srila Prabhupada was directly, as we know, sent by Krishna. And he came to the most fallen place. And only Srila Prabhupada was empowered with that direct potency of Krishna. Prabhupada once said, Krishna asked him to come to the material world. Will you come? Will you go, please? And course, he came out of his great compassion. We saw that. Prabhupada was in Vrindavan. He didn't want to leave. But he came. He came. So,
just continuing on the same note of Krishna requesting Prabhupada to come, there is a very similar memory by Bhavananda Prabhu, so we'll just see this in succession.
you know, so I learned that lesson. He said, I have so many palaces all over the world that I can stay in. He said, practically speaking, there's no difference between me and the Goswamis in terms of our lifestyle. He said, they stayed under a different tree every night. I stay in a different palace every night. They wrote, I write. He said, originally, I did not want to come here. He said, not to America, but to this world. He said, Krishna asked, I want you to write those books. Come down and write those books. And I said, well, I don't want to come to that. I don't want to go to that material world. And he said, Krishna said, don't you worry, I'll take care of everything. You write those books. That was the first and only time that I've ever heard or read, I might be wrong, where Prabhupada actually spoke about Krishna speaking to him and how he didn't want to go. And he made that face, his upper lip kind of, I did not want to go to that. I will take care of everything. You just come down and write those books. The atmosphere when he said that was just, it was like nothing I've ever experienced, ever.
So, I shared these two videos in succession because it kind of goes on the same message. When we read these books, they're just so transformational. Right now I'm reading The Science of Self-Realization. I'm done with like 70% of it. And it's just so transformational. The discussions with doctors, with J.F. Stahl, who is a professor, or with scientists. It's just, so, but again, like how did this happen? Like Prabhupada was, or is, an eternal associate of Krishna. He came directly from the spiritual world on the request of Krishna. And as we see more videos, we will see the Sanskrit scholarship of Prabhupada. Like, his writings was not ordinary. There was no doubt that this could not be done by a normal person. So, we'll continue and we'll hear from Rameshwar Prabhu, who led the BBT, the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. The Bhaktivedanta Book Trust was the publishing house for Prabhupada's books, and Rameshwar Prabhu was a big thrust in all of that. And this video is very special. So let's hear what Rameshwar Prabhu has to say.
In January of 1977, I was traveling with Srila Prabhupada as his personal secretary, and we had a lot of opportunities to have intimate conversations, especially when we were traveling by train to the Kumbh Mela and so on. So in one particular conversation, we were talking about the topic of nuclear war. Prabhupada had spoken about this over the last 2 years, predicting that America and Russia would start a nuclear war through their proxy states, India and Pakistan. And this had been a topic of great concern and kata all over ISKCON for some years. So I did ask Srila Prabhupada, was there any chance of this war being averted? And at first he said no. He said, communism is so evil. We must force this war to happen. Communism has to end. In fact, Srila Prabhupada said, just as Krishna appears to protect the devotees and annihilate the demons, so this Hare Krishna movement has arisen to annihilate the two great demons of our age, godless communism and godless science. So there must be a war to end it. And then Prabhupada sat back and thought. We were on a train at the time of this conversation. We were sharing a car. And then Prabhupada said, but there is a possibility that this war may be averted. It depends on your book distribution. So I'm a fanatic for book distribution. Any kata of any sort from Prabhupada, so I'm now hanging on every word on the edge of my seat. And Prabhupada said, your book distribution is creating a spiritual environment throughout the whole world. And that will awaken spiritual sentiments in everyone's heart. And as that awakens, as you continue this book distribution, that spiritual sentiment may bring down communism from within. And then Prabhupada said, yes, and future historians will note this, how communism failed because of your book distribution. They will note this, future historians, how a revolution, a spiritual revolution throughout human society took place.
So that's pretty powerful. That is the power of Prabhupada's book. So I want to make a few comments on this. So the first time when I heard this, in my head I was like, it was shocking, and I was not able to grasp this huge magnitude of a nuclear war, because we know, this comment was made in 1977, and we know in 1977-78 there was no nuclear war. So that means the nuclear war actually got averted because of these books. And I was kind of trying to get my head around it, like how such a magnitude of thing happened. And so then I put it in perspective. In the 1850s, two Germans, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, wrote the Communist Manifesto. This was written in 1850s. And this caused the Russian Revolution in 1914, or in the early 1900s by Lenin. So, in my head I was thinking, if producing this small book, the Communist Manifesto, could create such a big event like the Russian Revolution, then why cannot Prabhupada's book stop a nuclear war? Because these books are transcendental. Prabhupada's books are transcendental. And the Communist Manifesto was a material book. Just with one material book that caused the change in the course of history, why couldn't Prabhupada's book do it? Another observation I made is, the point Prabhupada is making that communism will actually fall from within. I don't know how many of you know. The two of the fastest growing ISKCON movements, the two countries where ISKCON is growing the fastest is Russia and China, the two main communist countries in the world. If you look at the statistics, now Russia has about 200,000 devotees, and all they're not Indian, they're Russian. And China has 50,000 devotees, and again, they're not Indian, they're Chinese. And like Prabhu said, future historians will note this, that communism will fall from within. And the reason why communism will fall, because it's godless communism. And the reason why it will fall is because of Prabhupada's books. It's the power of these books. So, like first when I saw this video, it really took me a while to digest. But then I thought about it, and it's happening. It's happening in real time. The two fastest countries where ISKCON is growing is Russia and China. So it was very interesting for me. So that shows the power of Prabhupada's books. And Prabhupada was aware that these books will create a revolution, will change the course of history. So, and he was thinking that, I'm not writing for today, I'm writing for the next 10,000 years. So because he had it in his head, he put a lot of effort into writing these books. And this next video by Navayogendra Swami will show how much effort he put into writing these books. So let's hear from Maharaj.
That's why you have come to me. It's true that I have come to Prabhupada. It is my good fortune. So one particular evening he called me. He said, come and give me a massage. So I was massaging Srila Prabhupada. And now he said that it was around 9:30. What was the time? I said, no, you can go and take rest. It was in his quarter in upstairs, Vrindavan. And I was preparing my bed in front of Prabhupada's quarter upstairs. It was summertime. No mosquitoes in Vrindavan. So I was putting on my mosquito net. It took me about 15 to 20 minutes to prepare my bed. And it was about 10 o'clock. And what I found inside Prabhupada's home, there's a noise. I looked from the window. Prabhupada is supposed to be taking rest now. I looked from the window, what I found, Prabhupada is sitting on a desk and translating. And from 10 till morning, Prabhupada kept on translating. No rest practically. And for some reason, Prabhupada called me. I said, Prabhupada, this night you didn't take any rest. And you're not feeling valuable. You should have taken some rest, Prabhupada. Prabhupada looked at me and he said that, Navayogendra, sometime this body will be sick, sometime it will be okay. But in any condition, you should keep on serving Krishna. That is to your eternal benefit. That is only going to go. See how much is thinking of serving Krishna. How much is dedicated to his Lord Krishna. He is not feeling well, in an advanced age, but he is not sleeping. What for is doing? He is not doing this, and many people work very hard to make money. He is doing for the welfare of everyone. He is doing for the benefit of everyone, for the benefit of mankind. So then he said that actually this body is useless. This body is useless. Now after the death, when animal die, his body is useful after death. His skin, his bone, his flesh, everything is useful. But human body is useless after death. So whatever we can do in the service of Krishna, that is to our credit. So while we are living, we should keep on serving Krishna. We should not give up serving Krishna. If someone is not serving Krishna, this is his misfortune. My good Father. So I felt so dedicated, not caring for his body, just thinking of others, doesn't take him rest. So I was really moved. I was moved by his compassion for others.
So let's talk a little bit about Prabhupada's schedule of between 1965 and 1977 when he left his body. So, Mataji is familiar with management, how much headache it comes with managing a temple. Prabhupada between 1965 and 77. In that short span of about 11 to 12 years, he opened 108 temples across the world. And again, we have to put this in context. This is before internet, because this is 1977 we are talking about. This is before internet, this is before smartphones. This is even before normal cellular phones. In fact, there are memories which says when he had to make calls between Bombay and New York, the amount of effort you have to put just to make an international call. It was ridiculous. It was very difficult back then. Back then was the time of letters and telegrams. We'll hear. So this is pre-internet era. This is pre-globalization. Even air travel was just beginning to take off. Air travel wasn't the biggest thing in the world. So even back then, and again, when you are managing a worldwide movement, time zones are different, which we are all familiar. When I call in India, right now it's night. People are sleeping. So we have to put all of that in context. And, just managing this one temple, we know how much headache there is. There's so many differences in opinion. There is the questions of fundraising, how are we going to raise funds, how are we going to maintain the temple, how are we going to do devotee care, how are we going to make sure there is prasadam every Sunday, there is enough money to make those prasadam, how are we going to make sure the deities are taken care of, how are we going to make sure the utilities are all paid. Just the headache of running one temple is astronomical. And over here, Prabhupada was leading the movement of 108 temples at a 70 plus age. His age that time was more than 70 years. So what was happening was during the day, after waking up, after he has done Mangalarati and everything, he gives class. And throughout the day, he is doing all of this management work. Replying to emails, guiding people, guiding them to take up leadership positions because he can't do everything. He's trying to talk with government organizations so that they support the movement. He is also fighting against court cases. That time there was a big thing against court cases. There was a lot of courts fighting. He's trying to do that. He was trying to set up a Gurukul, so he's trying to train up the teachers. He's trying to set up the deity standards, so he's training up the Brahmins. So throughout the day, he had a very, very, very busy day. He was doing all of these things within the short span of time. So during the day, he didn't have time to write. So he would work all the way throughout the day until 10 o'clock at night. And then at 10 o'clock, he would just sleep 2 to 3 hours. And then wake up back at 1 o'clock at night to start to translate these books. And every night, for 4 to 5 hours, he would stay up and he would translate these books. So that was the amount of effort he was putting. And when we had watched the first video on Prabhupada's compassion, like Maharaj is saying, he didn't do because he wanted money. If he would have ended up as a businessman in US, he would have probably made billions of dollars. Because, I know the lifestyle of CEOs. I used to hang out with one. And, they sleep 4 to 5 hours. They don't sleep as much as us. But even they don't sleep 3 hours. So if there is a person who would sleep 3 hours and who had that willpower and determination at Prabhupada, would have made billions of dollars. But that was never his goal. He was very selfless in his pursuit. What Prabhupada wanted was, we saw in that in my first class on Prabhupada's compassion, when Prabhupada's disciple was saying that he wore his body out in the service of mankind. If we were to do, people are interested in things like an autopsy, what is the cause of death? And if there was a question to ask, what was cause of Prabhupada's death? He wore his body out in the service of mankind. So just by looking at his schedule, we get a glimpse into how much Prabhupada put effort into writing this books. Now, we'll go to Harikesh Prabhu, who was the transliteration. He did the transliteration for Prabhupada. So the way Prabhupada used to write these books is, he had books in front of him. He would read these books. He would digest that information. And he had a dictaphone. He wouldn't type it out. So on a dictaphone, he would record his voice on what the book should contain. Then we would have a person who would do the transliteration of that. Transcribing and transliteration. Harikesh Swami did a lot of the transcribing and the transliteration work. And then they would give it to the editor. Editor would check for any grammatical mistakes. And then they would send it to the press, where the final printing used to happen. They would put all the pictures and print and bind the books. So Harikesh Prabhu, who was a big part of this transcribing and transliteration effort, walks us through that journey on how those books got written. And here we will see the scholarship, the philosophical depth of these books. Again, we saw in the first memory where we heard Krishna asked Prabhupada to write these books. And we'll see how these books were actually written. Then we'll get to understand the weight of these books. So let's hear from Harikesh Swami. Harikesh Das.
Just accepted this situation. In continuation of the idea of Prabhupada should write more, previous to this, I came to realize that Prabhupada's act of writing was very deep and very significantly considered. Every single word he put was not whimsical in any way. It wasn't like I'm talking now. It was very different than what you might have assumed when he wrote. Now I know in some of the Krishna book tapes that are out, there's a lot more flowing, because Prabhupada was, I think in that sense, telling a story that was from the verses. It was a story and he would give commentary on it. But it was very much in a story-like mood. Whereas in the Bhagavatam, or whichever book he was doing, it was quite different because he was teaching at the same time. And he was considering this book to be very, very significant and important. So I found very early on, when transcribing Prabhupada, to understand this better, it's important to know what it means to transcribe. It's not that you just simply hear some words and you start typing with your fingers, because only some of it was in English. A lot of it was in Bengali or Sanskrit. And to hear, you're hearing now. Let's say you've never heard a verse before, and you hear it in Sanskrit, and you've got to put it on the paper. Now, I don't know if people ever thought about that, but that's like a big job. And so, Prabhupada had many books. One of the books he might have been using for the actual verses, and that might have had purports in it. They all had purports in it. Some of the books he used were from the Gaudiya Math and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada's translations and commentaries. Other was from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and then there was a big book that had 8 Acharyas' commentaries in it. Now, this was a big thing. Each canto was big, thick. So when he would be speaking, you had to not only hear what he said in English, but you had to hear it in Sanskrit or Bengali, and you had to know where it came from so you could properly transcribe it, because you never heard these verses before either. So when I first started, the first thing I had to face when transcribing, before I even got to the Sanskrit Bengali difficulty, obstacle, which was sometimes huge, was that Prabhupada was using these Ur dictaphones. And they had a remote, kind of like remote, or a handpiece where you would push it and the microphone was in that handpiece. So you have not only the button, but you have the movement of an analog microphone, which was very sensitive to motion and stuff like this. It was a really good one, but still.
So every time Prabhupada clicked the button, in actuality, the recording would start some half second after the button gets pushed, and it would stop as soon as you release the button. So he had a rhythm which he used for his coordination between his finger and his mouth. And this rhythm was such that he no longer thought about the device in his hand. It was just a given. And he was simply thinking about what it was he was going to say. But the effect was that you would end up with like this. If you're going to say, for example, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you would get Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God, or something like that. Or, and now let's go on to another part, but sometimes you would only say one word. I once sat, many times, not just once, outside his door as he was writing, dictating. I would just sit there and listen in the middle of the night. And because I loved it, because I was intimate with the act of creation in as much as I got the first tape and I had to type it. So I would listen. And then I would hear him speak. And then, and once it went on for like minutes. And I'm like, wow, what happened? And so, and I was stunned that the amount of time between these words was sometimes very long. So when he would say "and," for example, all you would really hear with the click on, click off is bit. Sometimes I would hear that. Up. And there were different sounds. They weren't just, it wasn't just "and," it was a pile of different words. And he would take so long to think of that particular word because he wanted to get it precise. Because he didn't go back over it. This was his one chance to do it right. And he took great pride in what he wrote. This was his life's work. So he took great pride in it, as anyone would, but especially him, he took great pride in it, so he wanted to say it perfectly. But the problem was that the word that he took 5 seconds to think of sounded to me, who's supposed to transcribe it. So what I did was, I very carefully would examine the context of the sentence. Once I actually pieced it together, because sometimes that happened 3 or 4 times in a sentence, and I would learn what those fragments were. I would learn what word those fragments were. And when I was very confident I had it good, I went to Prabhupada and I said, I'm going to read you this sentence. You tell me what you think. I didn't tell him why. I said, blah, 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 blah. He said, yes. So? I said, no, fine. So I actually got it, what those little fragments were. Very difficult. And sometimes they weren't, I couldn't get it perfect because I don't know whether it was right or wrong. I thought it was. And so then you would hit this Sanskrit. Now sometimes of these 10 different purports you could refer to, one in one book, one in another book, and the 8 in the other. And I also knew what book he had on his desk because I put it there. So if it was, for example, Chaitanya Charitamrita, where he was just using the Gaudiya Math version, piece of cake, because I knew where to find the quotes in the purports. Very easy. But if he had multiple books, which was most of the time, so what you have to do is hear it, memorize what he's saying, and then look to find that pattern in all of the Sanskrit and Bengali for 8 different acharyas for this one verse. And sometimes, especially like Sanatana Goswami, he sometimes had 10 pages of commentary. I mean, Sanskrit pages, 10. Thick, black, 10. Not all the time, some were like paragraphs, but... So it would take a long time to figure it out. And sometimes it wasn't there. It wasn't in any of the books. So I gave up. Then I said, I can't handle this. I go to Prabhupada. I said, you said this. Where is that from? And he would say, that's from over there. And I go, run back there, find it, yep, there it is. Now, that's phenomenal. I'd like to also talk about other people who had spoken about Prabhupada's Sanskrit capacities and stuff, but that's phenomenal. That he knew where he got that from. And these were not those usual quotes that everybody knows nowadays. And, these are very esoteric. Some of them are quite esoteric. Of course, yeah, after a while, everybody knows all of them because they're knowing what was at that time. Never heard that before. So he knew where they were. And he helped, but once he didn't know it either. It took me 1 week, that's what I had mentioned before, 1 week to find that quote. Because if you don't have it, you can't type it. And if you don't know where it is, the Sanskrit people can't double check the transliteration. Because when you do transcribe, you also do transliterations. Because they don't want to do it. They're doing other stuff. So I had to find it, properly transliterate it, and then they would put the diacritic marks because I didn't have time for all that time. I mean, it was phenomenal, the process of writing these books. I mean, for me, when I said on the beach that your books are just getting better all the time, and he said, do you think so? I said, it's amazing. Because I was the one writing and typing them, and I saw it happening in my eyes, saw it right in front of me that it was getting better and better and better. I was just amazed. It was very happy. For him, that was the greatest compliment. Not these other things which people generally said, oh, you're so wonderful, blah, blah, blah. I said, these are getting better and better all the time. He was just like beaming, because that was his life's work. And I remember when we were doing the universe thing, and that was a whole other story, but related to Sanskrit, somebody brought up this Sanskrit scholar from Udupi. He was really a big-time Sanskrit scholar. So he was giving his ideas of what the 5th canto verses were supposed to mean. And he was talking about some Sanskrit thing. And then Prabhupada said, very humbly, he said, oh, actually, I thought it meant this. And that man was stunned. He just shut up immediately, stunned. He couldn't say a word. He just looked down. He was like, it's like all of a sudden something blew up in his head that, oh my God, that's right. So then from that point on, whenever somebody would say something about Prabhupada's scholarship, I said that yes, but in the real world of interaction with scholarship, many times these scholars found that they didn't know as much. And I found that to be very significant.
It's pretty crazy. So I just want to highlight one point from this video about the Ashtatika Bhagavatam. So I want to show people this here is the Bhagavatam set of Prabhupada, which is 12 cantos, 18 books, right here. But all of this. The Ashtatika Bhagavatam is 8 commentaries. So that is 8 times these books. 8 times, so you multiply 8, how many? 18 times 8. And that is the Ashtatika Bhagavatam, But Prabhupada, what he was doing was, he was not only using the Ashtatika Bhagavatam, but he was also using additional 3 more commentaries. So that is 8 plus 3, 11. So take these books, multiply it by 11. So 18 times 11, how much is that?
198.
198 books. He compressed. So he would read that book, he will digest it, and then he wrote these books. So I want to give people a sense of the philosophical depth. Now, I will say, personally, Mataji, the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, I use in my work. I work in artificial intelligence. I use that. Because the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is Sankhya Yoga, or analytical study of nature. And this, scientists and logicians can use in their work. So, the amount of depth in this book is unbelievable. So I wanted to really point out how much effort Prabhupada took to write these books. So that's why when we see that first few videos by Bhavananda Prabhu and Narad Muni Prabhu, when they say that Krishna asked Prabhupada to write, and when Narad Muni Prabhu said that somebody wrote that it is his belief that Prabhupada is Vyasadeva himself, now that's no shot from the truth, because that's what he did. That 18 cantos of Bhagavatam is compressed out of 198 books. And that is only the Bhagavatam, Mataji. That is only the Bhagavatam. When we see the literary contributions of Prabhupada, Prabhupada wrote the Krishna book, Prabhupada wrote the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada wrote the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada wrote Isopanishad, Prabhupada wrote teachings of Queen Kunti, teachings of Lord Kapila, transcendental teachings of Dhruva Maharaj. And when did he do this? He did this when whole day he was managing 108 temples. So, I just wanted to produce that effect that when we talk about Prabhupada, he is not an ordinary person. There's no way. And again, you have to also take into context his age. He was 70 plus years old when he was not a young boy. He was not a young man. He had all the health challenges an old person faces. And he still put the effort to write the books. I just wanted to say how much he put into these books. Now, the very last video that I want to show, just again to emphasize the amount of effort Prabhupada took into writing his books, that even on his deathbed, he was translating. So let's see this video. This is an actual footage of 1977.
And this is karma, karma hetu.
Karma hetu, if we devotionally we get a different nature, and if we engage in the basis of sense gratification, we get unstable.
And then the karma is tadde dehopalamti hetu.
Yes. And according to the association of divine nature, we get a body, karanam dhammasya, satasat janma. Therefore, we should should always seek good association, devotee association. Then on life will be successful.
In last it says the gunas, sattvayo, jnana vikshepa, moha, hetavaha.
Now, if we live with good association, then we cultivate knowledge. That means association. And man is known by his company. So, if we have the chance of association with devotees, then our character, nature, will know. By hearing, by discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, this Rajavan Tamagun are subdued. Then Sattvagun remains. Nashtaprayas over there. Wisdom Bhagavatam. Then Sattvagun Tamagun cannot do us harm. Therefore, Varnashram Dharma is so essential that people remain in Sattvagun. Tamam Rajavan, Rajastama Bhava increases lust and greediness, and that implicates the living entity to exist in this material world in many, many forms. Therefore, they should be brought into Sattvagun, that is establishment of Varnashram. How to bring people in Sattvagun to ground them qualification. Very neat and clean. Rise early in the morning. This Mangala in this to stay in Sattvagun.
So we can see the sacrifice of Prabhupada. Even on his dying bed, he's putting the effort to translate his books. So, okay, so practically, what can we do? It's the duty of any sincere member of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness to try to take out the time to read Prabhupada's books. And because Prabhupada's literary contribution is so vast, there's so many books he wrote, and maybe in the whole lifetime we might not even finish reading all of those books. But at least what we can do, having seen what we have seen, is, maybe in a week we can take out 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes over the weekend, or maybe an hour over the weekend, like at least we can start trying to read Prabhupada's books. Now, always then there is a question that comes. Prabhupada wrote so many books. How do I read those books? What is the sequence? So, Prabhupada disciples, after he departed in the 1980s, because Prabhupada had given them an instruction, do a systematic study of my books. To really scrutinizingly do a systematic study of my books. So following that instruction in 1980s, his leading disciples, they put out a list in the order in which these books have to be read. So I'm going to just show this order, which I took off Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj. And I want to show different things. So, firstly we have the book name. And whoever wants to take a picture of this, the snapshot can go ahead and take a picture. So, first you have the book name, which tells the book that Prabhupada wrote. Then I put the book size at small, medium, large. Then there is you see a category called sequence. Maybe I should zoom it more, so that people from the back can see. So you have the book name, then you have the book size, then you have the sequence, and then you have a category. So sequence is what you should start reading first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it goes as follows. And then there is a category. 1, then over here it switches to 2, then over here it switches to 3, and then over here it switches to 4. So the rule is, you have to finish books in category 1 before you can jump to category 2. And the reason is it's similar like school. Unless you understand the basic math, you cannot advance to higher classes. Just like if I don't know trigonometry, there is no way I'll understand calculus. And if I don't know calculus, I can't understand university level math. So similarly, as you go down the list, progressively the philosophy gets heavier and heavier. Because, if you were to directly jump to the bottom, which is number 34 and 33, you won't understand anything in that book. And I've done that, by the way. I've done that and I did not understand that book. So I had to go back. So this is the sequence in which you have to read the book. And once you're done with reading books in category 1, you can jump to category 2. I'll zoom back so that you can get a full snapshot. Then when you're done with reading in category 2, you can read category 3. And then finally you can go to category 4, which is like very, very advanced philosophical exposition. So, what I have here is perfect questions, perfect answers. So this one is, it's a category 1 book I'm trying to find. Yeah. It's this one, sequence number 12. It's still in category 1. And this is a smaller book, so let me open up this. So this is the book, and it's about 100 pages. So this is the discussion between Prabhupada and Bob Cohen, Brahmatirtha Prabhu. So Bob Cohen is a scientist. So this is a discussion between Prabhupada and a scientist. And it's only 100 pages, and it goes over some of the basic philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So this is a good book to start with. It's a pretty easy book. It won't take a lot of effort. And at least at the completion of the book, you can say that, hey, I finished one book of Prabhupada. There's a lot of books here. Like the Srimad Bhagavatam is 18 books. But, before we get there, we can at least start with number 12 here. Number 12. Right here. And again, these books, Prabhupada wanted to sell these books at cost. If you go to any publishing house, Dover, Pearson, Springer, when you try to buy their books, they are at least 5 to 10 times more expensive than BBT books. And this I know because I collect books. So if you go to any of the publishing houses, you will find that BBT books cost at least 5 to 10 times cheaper. Because that was the point of Prabhupada. Prabhupada did not want to create a profit out of these books. He wanted these books to benefit mankind. So literally this one, how much, like $5 or $3? $3.
$3.
So let's say $3. So that means it's nothing. You know, for us, the cost of this book is nothing. So we have these books. So this might be a good book to start with. So whoever wants to buy this book is $3, and then we can get started with reading Prabhupada's books. Because you will find a lot of value in these books. A lot of value, just like what we saw. Because the effort Prabhupada put into writing these books is immense. And the philosophical exposition in this book is very deep. So I know like we are quite over time. Should we do a question or like just...
Couple of minutes.
Huh?
Couple minutes.
Okay, so we'll just open up the floor for maybe 1 or 2 questions, and with that we can end the class. So anyone has any questions? If anyone doesn't have questions, then we can go for reflections.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica, for actually really showing us what Srila Prabhupada went through to write these books. Those of us who heard the breakdown of the books that he went through, 198 different volumes of everything else and condensed it to 18 verses, it's no joke. At the age of 70, how many of us here are at the age of 70 and up?
I think only correction.
He's the only one that's 70, I know that. That's why I didn't mention his name. Anyone above 70 years of age? No one. 60 years? Okay, so we are young. Right? We are conceptually very, very young. Imagine how at the age of 70, hardly slept all night, was up 4 hours, took 2-hour naps here and there probably, wrote these books, condensed 198 volumes to 18 volumes of Bhagavatam. Why are we complaining to read the 100-page book? Why are we complaining? I don't have the time. He gave his life. Right? It's not difficult. If we really see how much Prabhupada did, not reading his books is just saying, Prabhupada, you know what? You wasted your time on me. That's what it means. So please, I have never thought 198 scoped down to 18 volumes. That is really, really powerful. At the age of 70, up to the age 82, he was here from 65 to 77. 82, if we add it up, 70 plus 12 is 82 years, right? We don't have anyone above 80 years here. We only have one 70-year-old senior, my husband, and he's turning 72 years old soon. So and we don't have anyone 60 years of age. So we're still young, considerably young, okay? So we should really, really take these books to heart. We should have no complaints to say, I don't have the time to read. Because Prabhupada gave up his blood, his time, his sleep, everything to write these books. So I have you give me the book. That's the book.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to take 2 minutes and then we'll start with Guru Puja Aarti to Prabhupada. How many of us have a copy of perfect questions, perfect answers in their home? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of what, 70 people here? What's that, 1%, 10%? What's the math? Huh? 10%. Hare Babri Bab. Okay. Those of us that say we have the book, how many of us read it? Fully 100 pages. 1 out of 70, that's 1%, right? Is my math still okay or is it gone out the window? Okay. It's somewhere out of the window. I know, after Friday 5 p.m. my math goes out of the window. How many of us have $3 with us today? Preeti's only one. We are really in Kali Yuga, aren't we? Okay, how many of us got credit cards? Debit cards? Do we have our driver's license with us? Perfect. So we drove here legally, right? So I'm assuming that we also have our debit cards and credit cards to give $3. I'm going to ask everyone here to get this book if you don't have it. $3, whether it's cash or card. If it's cash, thank you. Need to come out, don't sit. Stand up. That's why I have him standing up. Okay? I'm going to challenge everyone to get this book today. $3 a copy. You will not find $3 even in the consignment store today. I can guarantee you that. $3 a copy, either cash or credit card. Please see Nitya Gopal to get a copy of it. And it's 100 pages. How long do you think it'll take us to finish 100 pages? Yeah, right. Nice try. How much? How long you think? If you stick with it, I'll give you 1 month. Can we do it in 1 month? Raise your hands. I'm seeing only 2 hands up on the men's side. Come on, men. Hands up, hands up. 1 month, 100 pages. Women, you read the book? No? Hands up. I'm going to push you. Because this 70-year-old man gave his life for this book. We can't take it lightly. We can't take it lightly. We got to be serious. So whoever has not read this book, Nitya Gopal and Prasad Prabhu, can you please stand up, Prabhu? Prasad Prabhu will come to each of the women after the program, make sure that you have the book, and in 1 month you have to finish it. And the men, Nitya Gopal, you're going to go to each person, get them to get the book, and they're going to read it in 1 month. 100 pages, 1 month, ain't no problem. All we have to do is cut back half an hour of cell phone time, half an hour of YouTube, half an hour of Instagram, half an hour of WhatsApp, half an hour of sleeping, half an hour watching movies. Can we do that? Swarnavranga, I need your voice. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki. We'll start with Guru Puja. Haribol. We stop the talking. Haribol. 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 Guru Puja time. Srila Prabhupada is here. Haribol. Thank you.
Jaya Prabhupada. Maharaj Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhasa Parivajikacharya. Astotra Sata Sri Maharaj Divine Grace. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada ki. Ananda Bodhi Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Ramacharya Sri Haridas Thakur ki. ISKCON of Harrisburg Prabhupada ki. Prem Sri Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Vaiti Gadadhara Shivacharya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kun Giri Goparan ki. Vrindavan Dham ki. Mathura Dham ki. Navadvip Dham ki. Jagannathpuri Dham ki. Ganga Mai ki. Yamuna Mai ki. Tulsi Devi ki. Bhakti Devi ki. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki. Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees.